Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu put out a really horrible take online, and Twitter let him have it. Now, Ted Lieu may not be the most inspiring Democrat, but he also isn't the worst. If you look at his track record, he even sometimes leans a little more progressive than most Democrats do. But this position that he put out online really is just ridiculous. So let me first show you what he replied to. This piece of news saying White House announces global vaccine sharing program plans to send 75% of excess doses to international alliance. So Biden White House right now planning to send all these vaccines to COVAX, which is the UN-backed program that sends excess vaccines out to the rest of the world. They should typically be going where it is necessary, like where they can help the most people. So Ted Lieu is apparently against this, as he tweeted out, "I strongly disagree with the Biden administration on their global vaccine rollout. We should help our allies first, instead of letting a third party decide where vaccines should go. Since there are not enough vaccines, we should should we help India or Iran? We should help India first." Adding the example here makes this tweet even worse. But first, just dealing with the top line. The idea of punishing citizens of a country because their government doesn't get along with the U.S. is just completely ridiculous. This is a position that you would expect, Donald Trump to take. This is an incredibly conservative position that puts American foreign policy, puts American interests above what's actually good for people of the world. Because if you're not putting the vaccines to where or giving the vaccines to places that need it most, then you are risking the potential for further mutations of COVID-19 that may render the current vaccines ineffective. This is a position that scientists have discussed for quite some time now, saying that if we do not vaccinate the world in time, basically giving a 12-month timeline, that if we do not vaccinate everybody in 12 months, or the vast majority of people in 12 months, then you risk having mutations of COVID-19 that render the current vaccines ineffective. Wouldn't it make more sense to listen to experts in this area that think, hey, maybe the vaccines should go to Iran because right now there's an outbreak there of a certain variant, or wherever it's going. But the idea of prioritizing certain countries over others because of how well their government gets along with you is a very conservative take that is anti-humanitarian. Now, there's more problems with this, but let me get to the second part of his tweet here, where he mentions, would you help, or should we help India or Iran? You got to ask yourself, why doesn't the U.S. have a good relationship with Iran? Maybe it has something to do with this. Donald Trump says U.S. will no longer abide by Iran deal. So Donald Trump ripped up the Iran deal in 2018, the Obama-Iran deal, that Biden still has not yet gotten back into. You want to punish Iran because Donald Trump was an idiot. It's so stupid. And the other part of this is, wouldn't giving vaccines to countries that you don't normally get along with, wouldn't that help to maybe alleviate some of the tensions you have with those other governments? But no, Ted Lieu rather continue punishing these countries that don't get along with the U.S., maybe because the U.S. did something wrong. Maybe. But let me get to some reactions online. So this is my favorite reaction. In fact, the best point made here by Paul F. Tompkins, saying, if we're going to be holding the entire population of a country responsible for its stupid government, we should have gotten our own vaccine last. You can't make a better point than this. The amount of destruction that the U.S. government has caused worldwide over the years, obviously, if that's the standard you're holding, then yeah, Americans should have got vaccinated last. But it's a stupid standard to punish the citizens of a country simply because of how the government acts. Vijay here tweeted out, as an Indian, I find this offensive. As an infectious disease reporter, I find this morally repugnant. Accessing vaccines is not a competitive sport in which people liked by Americans get a shot at life. There are not enough vaccines because of patents. Hashtag TRIPS waiver. So the TRIPS waiver, I've discussed this at length in the past. Biden finally, a few weeks ago, came out in support of waiving the TRIPS agreement so that these vaccines can be mass produced through generic producers. But still, there's the issue of other countries not signing off on that. So this is a constant process. But yes, vaccines or the patents on these vaccines is a large barrier to the problem. Seth Manukin here tweeting out, interesting position from someone who feels compelled to include empathy is good in his Twitter bio. Ted Lieu probably should remove that now. Nagar Mort Azavi, and apologies for mispronouncing any of these names, says this framing is wrong from ethical and health safety perspectives. Vaccines should go to those who need them most. In India, in Iran, and elsewhere, it is dangerous to politicize health. It's like asking Biden to first vaccinate Democrats, then Republicans. Exactly. If you're going to use this standard, then where do you draw the line? Tabita Chow here says, absolutely, TF no. The value of human life and global public health doesn't depend on whether or not a person lives under a government that serves U.S. foreign policy. This proposal would also likely feed anti-American nationalism in Iran and thus popular support for the Iranian regime. Exactly. Just imagine if the shoe was on the other foot and Iran were the ones that developed all these vaccines and they now decided to punish American citizens because of the U.S. government. How would you feel about that? Last one here. Current Affairs tweeted out explicit statement here that the lives of people in U.S. allied countries are worth more than the lives of people elsewhere. This is an implicit principle of U.S. foreign policy, but helpful to see it spoken aloud. Yeah. Ted Lieu here just parroting how U.S. foreign policy has operated for decades. Put not even Americans first, put U.S. weapons manufacturers first, put the military industrial complex first, and then worry about the destruction later, or not even worry about it, and just continue on dominating the world in various ways, overthrowing governments, and then not care at all about how that impacts you. And don't worry, if those countries hate you, well, guess what? You don't get a vaccine. So it's basically abide by U.S. government weapons manufacturers first, and anyone who doesn't like it, if you got a problem with it, well, you get screwed even further. It's a completely anti-humanitarian, ridiculous position. And honestly, I'm recording this the day before. I'm thinking maybe Ted Lieu may end up deleting this tweet because of how stupid it is.